Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, hello and welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. Today is the 20th of December. We've of course got another video for you. Only 5 days till Christmas, guys, but yesterday's video we were talking about the death marks going up against a hex mark destroyer, so you'll find that in the link, or you can find it in the playlist down below. Now, we've got another video today which is going to be 3 Lokhust destroyers going up against the Triarch Stalker. Now I just want to make very clear before we start this video that with the Triarch Stalker we're not going to be adding any upgrades, because you'll see why in a moment in fact. And before getting into the video, I just wanted to get the sponsor in today, which is the Magnet Baron. If you don't know who the Magnet Baron are, well, they are a magnet company that you'll find online, and not just your standard magnets, there's also your specialist magnets for things such as flyers, the Ghost Art, the Doomsday Art, the Lokhust destroyers, the Ctan command barges. That they provide the magnet stands, or the flight stands they call them, that you can pop off when you go into your local games and your tournaments, so you can get them into your model cases, and this is going to prevent them from snapping, because the Games Workshop ones that they provide, they do tend to snap. I mean, all of my Lokhust heavy destroyers have snapped. I've had to re-glue them down onto the actual base, whereas if I had the Magnet Baron's magnets, I wouldn't need to do that. So in fact, I'm going to have to sort myself out with those and get some magnets attached to my Lokhust heavy destroyers. But yeah, you'll find their link down in the description below. Or alternatively, go to themagnetbaron.com and you'll find everything that you need on their website. Right, let's get back onto today's video. I wanted to stress the point, in fact, for the Triarch Stalker, we're going to be sticking with the particle shredder for this video. We're going to try and compare the actual anti-infantry weapons. Now, of course, the heat rate and the twin Gauss cannons are also anti-infantry weapons, but we don't want to make the points go too different. We're trying to keep the points as similar as possible. Right, we're back, and as for the points, well, 120 points will get you 3 Lokhust destroyers, because they're 40 points each, and 120 points will exactly get you 1 Triarch Stalker. Now, we did mention a few times already, there are some upgrade options. We're sticking with the free upgrades here. Now, the Lokhust destroyers are, of course, a heavy support option. They've got the core keyword as well as infantry, whereas the Triarch Stalker is an elite core vehicle model with the dynastic agent keyword. But I kind of see this video as more of an experiment. Which ones are going to remove the most infantry models? Which one would I prefer? And I will tell you at the end of this video. Right, so let's begin with the stat comparison. The Lokhust destroyers, well, first of all, they're not moving as fast as the Triarch Stalker because they're only moving 8 inches rather than 10 inches. However, they do have the fly keyword, so bear that one in mind. They've got 3 wounds apiece, so if you've got 3 of them, that's going to be a total of 9 wounds. Whereas the Triarch Stalker has 12 wounds, so the Triarch Stalker's got more combined wounds there. Attacks, not really that important for the Lokhust destroyers. They've only got a total of 6 attacks, but it is still more than Triarch Stalker's 3 attacks, which I think sucks. And that thing actually can fight as well, so that's really weird. Now the Triarch Stalker, strength 7, whereas the Lokhust destroyers are only strength 5. Toughness 6, the Lokhust destroyers are only toughness 5. So yeah, I think overall the best profile here is the Triarch Stalker. As you would expect, it's a large vehicle model, so that one is a point to the Triarch Stalker. Next we come on to the unique ability, starting off with the destroyers. Hardwired for destruction so that they can reroll hit rolls of a 1. All the destroyer cult units have that. They've got the repulsive platform, so they can move and fire their heavy weapons because their Gauss cannons will be heavy. And they've also got the reanimation protocols, which I've added here because the Triarch Stalker will not have reanimation protocols. Now what the Triarch Stalker does have, well, he's got the quantum shield ability, so it's a 4+ to wound it, as well as the 5+ invulnerable save, so it's going to be a lot more resilient than the Lokhust destroyers. It's got the targeting relay, so as soon as it hits a targeted unit, then army-wide you're going to get to reroll hit rolls of a 1 at range. Pretty cool. And the third one I'll just put here, the explode ability. When it's destroyed on a 6, units within 6 inches take D3 mortal wounds. This one I think is very close, but the Triarch Stalker for me just about wins it. The quantum shielding ability I think is really huge for a vehicle, and yeah, much more resilient. Also giving that targeting relay army-wide, including the dynastic agents, including the Silent King. As long as they've got the Necron keyword, they're going to be able to use the targeting relay. So for that one, I'm giving that one to the Triarch Stalker again. Right, on to unique synergy next, starting off again with the Lokhust destroyers. We've got the extermination protocol stratagem to begin, so they get to reroll all their wound rolls. Now that is quite expensive, it's 2 command points to do that, so it's only better served when you've got a full unit of 6 of them, and maybe with a heavy Lokhust destroyer in the unit as well, which we'll get onto him in a moment. In fact, he's right here. So you can get a Lokhust heavy destroyer within the unit, which is a little bit of a cheat code because of the rule of 3. You could get 3 Lokhust heavy destroyer units and then put 1 in 3 separate units of Lokhust destroyers, because that's a completely different data sheet. So we're slightly bending the rules, but we're not bending the rules. We can get additional Lokhust heavy destroyers within our list if we wanted to. But even just for smaller games, you can hide Lokhust heavy destroyer, because as soon as you lose a model, you can take it from the Lokhust destroyers and then keep your Lokhust heavy destroyer from being removed. Alternative synergy with the Lokhust Lord, maybe even the Scorpion Lord, but I put here the Lokhust Lord because he's cheaper and he's going to be likely staying back with your Lokhust Destroyers. He will allow you to reroll wound rolls of a 1. Alternatively, you can take an Overlord or a Catacomb Command Barge for that My Will Be Done ability for a +1 to the hit roll. Technomancers with the Rites of Reanimation ability as well as the Canoptic Cloak, so you can bring a model back and also heal another model D3 lost wounds, something I like to do, or a Chronomancer with the Chronometron ability to give them a 5+ invulnerable save. Now you're not going to really use that rerollable charge roll, but the 5+ in 1 save will be pretty handy because they don't actually have one. Army of Renown is next, where they got the Annihilation Legion, which was quite recent, so they can be selected because they've got the Destroyer Cult keyword. And within that Army of Renown, there's a couple of stratagems that are going to work with these guys in particular. The Efficient Disintegration, to +1 to their damage for their weapons, or a Moment of Clarity to give them objectives secured. One last thing for them, which is the Dynasty codes. Of course, they have any Dynasty code they want because the Triarch Stalker is a Dynasty agent that won't get a Dynasty code, so this will be unique to the Destroyers. And also any of the dynastic stratagems will be available to these guys too. Now that's the Lokhust Destroyers. What about the Triarch Stalker? First point of call is the Silent King. He's got all the reroll abilities to hit, reroll to wound, and you don't need to have a dynasty code in order to use that because the Silent King actually works with any dynasty. Also some stratagems that are available to the Triarch Stalker. There's quite a few here, in fact there's 5 I've got for you. First of all, the Disruption Field stratagem for a +1 to the strength. He starts on strength 7, so putting it to that magic strength 8 could be handy. Alternatively, you do have the Hungry Void as the command protocol that you could use to do that as well. Second one, Judgment of the Triarch for a +1 to the hit roll. You can do that in any phase. That's very similar to the My Will Be Done ability, but you have to spend CP to do that. And if you wanted to use that in 2 different phases, that's going to cost you 2 separate command points. Stellar Alignment Protocol to be used in this top bracket because it does unfortunately have a bracket table. So if you want to be hitting on a 3+, yeah, use Stellar Alignment Protocols. The Quantum Deflection stratagem so that his invulnerable save becomes a 4+ rather than a 5+. And finally, Curse of the Pharaon if you wanted to automatically explode rather than trying to roll a 6 to throw out mortal wounds on the explosion. So the Triarch Stalker has a lot of stratagems available, as well as giving that targeting relay to, well, army-wide in fact, rerolling 1s to hit against a certain unit. Whereas the Lokhust Destroyers, I think they've got a lot more synergy, a lot more links. But for this one, I'm going to call this one a tie because the Triarch Stalker does relate to virtually every unit within the Codex if they are firing at range. Next we're going to move on to the weapons. Starting off with the Lokhust Destroyers, they've got the Gauss Cannons, 24-inch range, heavy 3, strength 6, -3 AP, D3 damage. So when you've got 3 Lokhust Destroyers, that's going to be 9 shots, you're re-rolling 1s. 7 hits on average, so going up against toughness 3, you're wounded on 2s, so approximately you're going to get 6 wounds before any armor saves are made. Going up against toughness 4 to toughness 5, it's just under 5 wounds. Toughness 6, you're looking at 3.5 wounds, and toughness 7 onwards, around 2.3. For me, due to the D3 damage, you're better off going up against 2 wounded models, so Space Marines are an obvious example there. Not so much against the Death Guard from the Chaos book because they've got that -1 to the damage rule, so the likelihood is you roll a 2 on the damage, and yeah, that goes back down to 1, so you may as well not use it against the Death Guard. So that is the Lokhust Destroyers. What about the Triarch Stalker? Now we mentioned in the intro, we're going to be going with the Particle Shredder for this video because it's the free upgrade. We want to keep this at 120 points. Now there are options for the Heat Ray as well as the Twin Heavy Gauss Cannon, but to be honest with you, when I do take my Triarch Stalkers, I tend to take the Particle Shredders anyway because I want to make sure, well, I want to ensure that I get a hit roll that actually succeeds so that I get the targeting relay army wide. When you take the Heat Ray, you might not necessarily get it because if you're not within 12 inches, you're not going to get the automatic hit. You'll have to use the other profile, which is the Focused Heat Ray. You've only got 2 shots with that, and if you miss with both, you're not getting the targeting relay. Also, I quite like the fact that it's damage 2 with the Particle Shredders as opposed to D3. You're almost guaranteeing yourself that Space Marine models are going down, and it's not that unpredictable 1 or 2 or 3 with that damage. So before getting onto the maths for the Triarch Stalker, let's get on with what the actual profile is. It's Particle Shredder, 24-inch range, heavy 8, strength 6, -1 AP, 2 damage. So you've got 8 shots that are hitting on 3s. That's going to average 5 hits. Then going up against toughness 3, you're wounded on 2s, so that's 4.4 wounds on average. Toughness 4 to toughness 5 is around 3.5. Toughness 6 is around 2.7, and toughness 7 onwards around 1.8. All of that before armor saves, of course. So in fact, all of these numbers are slightly under what the Destroyers actually achieve. And I'll put the stats up for you next to each other so you can see what I'm talking about. So in all 4 of these examples, the Lokhust Destroyers are just about winning. However, don't forget that the Triarch Stalker can also fight. Now he only unfortunately has 3 attacks, which I think is absolutely crazy. This thing should have at least 6 attacks for me. Only 3 attacks unfortunately, but it is strength user, so that makes it strength 7, -2 AP, and the damage is 3. The damage is pretty decent to be fair. And if you're using that stratagems for the +1 to the strength or the command protocol of Hungry Void, you get that to strength 8. So it means you're wounding Space Marine models and the alike on 2s. So you've got to take that in consideration when you are doing the maths. This thing can fight, and also, of course, those options that we didn't actually go through, the heat ray as well as the twin heavy gauss cannons. But for this particular video, I'm going to give that point to the Lokhust destroyers, only just. Right, let's get on to the general purposes, starting off with the Lokhust destroyers. They're a backline gun line, of course. Maybe you're going to use them to hide a Lokhust heavy destroyer within the unit. The likelihood is they're going to be on your home objective or screening off deep striking units that are coming into your deployment zone. Whereas the Triarch Stalker, they are more aggressive. They've got the movement of 12 inches. They can rush forward to harass, distract, even tie up enemy units. Unfortunately, they don't have the dynastic keyword, so therefore they're not got the Nihilak dynasty, so getting onto an objective, they're only going to still count as one model. But they could optionally do the Ancient Machinery's secondary objective because they are core. Again though, no objective secured, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get that one. Right, let's get on to the advantages and disadvantages for the Lokhust destroyers to begin. Advantages: they are core, lots of interaction with core of course, they can fly, they're rerolling ones to hit with their hardwire for destruction ability. They're always hitting on a 3+ because they're not going to be degraded. They've got the dynasty keyword, so they're going to be linking with the Mefrit dynasty, then the Nihilak dynasty, whatever other dynasty you want to use. They've got the reanimation protocols, although it's not likely you're going to be bringing one back. It doesn't work that well on multi-wing models. Overall synergy I think is much better, and they've got the option of the Annihilation Legion Army of Renown. You can add a Lokhust heavy destroyer within the unit, and finally, there's more models within the unit to waste enemy damage. Let's say your opponent's got damaged 2 weapons going up against our Lokhust destroyers. Every time 2 goes through, it's going to remove our models. But unfortunately for them, that last bit of damage is going to be wasted because it doesn't pass on to the next model. So even though they're throwing out 4 damage with the 2 wounds that go through, our guys are only 3. So right, on to the disadvantages. Well, they've got no invulnerable save. That's unfortunate. The resiliency does suffer due to that. They're slower in terms of their movement at 8 inches, which is still okay, but they're not moving 12 inches like the Stalker does. They've got a combined total of 9 wounds as opposed to the 12 for the Triarch Stalker again. Only toughness 5, not toughness 6, no quantum shielding, so you can wound them on less than a 4+. They've got no options with their weaponry. They cannot fight into engagement range because they're infantry units, and finally they're going to be offering absolutely nothing in melee. So if you've not got the command protocol of Conquering Tyrant or a Royal Warden to get them out, which we haven't actually mentioned in this video, then yeah, these guys are going to suffer. Right, that's the Lokhust destroyers. What about the Triarch Stalker? Advantages: weapon options to begin, so the Heat Ray and the Twin Heavy Gauss Cannon is an upgrade option for the weaponry. It can fight into engagement range because it's a vehicle. 12-inch movement, not 8-inch. It's toughness 6. 12 wounds, quantum shielding, so resiliency is very good. It can fight, only 3 attacks, but it can still fight. It's going to provide the lookout sir ability to characters nearby, again because it's a vehicle. And finally, that targeting relay is going to be synergizing with other units. Disadvantages: well, no dynasty code because it's a dynastic agent, so that means no easy mile will be done unless you're bringing a dynastic agent overlord such as Trazyn the Infinite, Amrikir the Traveller, or the Silent King perhaps. When you're adding the options, it's going to make the model more expensive. Now that isn't really a problem, but for this video it is because we're trying to keep it at 120 points. It's only got 3 attacks, which I've put here as a disadvantage. It probably shouldn't be, but I just wanted to make clear that 3 attacks absolutely stinks for this thing. It can't fly like the Lokhust destroyers, and finally, vehicles have less secondary objective options, whereas the infantry can do raise the banners and things like that. Right, so on to the part of the video where I've got to make a decision. This one is another tricky one. I say that quite often now. It's another one of those videos where I thought I was going to select one and I've changed my mind while creating the video. I was going to go with the Lokhust destroyers. I've recently got myself another 6 of them and I thought I was going to pick them today because yeah, the damage is D3, lots of shots, re-rolling ones, but the Triarch Stalker, there's something about the Triarch Stalkers that I really like. I mean, you would have seen it when I made that list with Nick from Idic Beer when we did the 2,000 point list. Was it a 1,000 point list? I can't remember now, but in my list I had the Silent King and I also had 2 Triarch Stalkers within that list, so there's something about them that I really like. Not so much the attacks, I absolutely hate that, but the resiliency and the weaponry I do really like. So I'm going to go with the Triarch Stalker today. You'll have to flame me in the comments down below. Other than that guys, you know what to do. You've got to like the video, you've got to subscribe to the channel and comment on which of these units you would prefer, and then that will give you an opportunity to win that box set. Other than that, all that is left to say is thank you for watching and I will see you tomorrow.